Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Words. I'm Julia Rogers. I'm an MCC accredited coach, accredited coaching supervisor, and EMCCC senior practitioner. You can tell this is live, can't you? Because I can't get my words out. I'm also a psychodynamic enthusiast. It's my mission to bring psychodynamics into the world of coaching. I think it's vastly underrated and untapped, the way that we talk about this. So it's absolutely my mission to, bring this to the world of coaching, because if we don't look at it, we're missing out. So last week we talked about frozen feelings. So those clients who stay very calm, very tidy, very composed, often a little too composed. Today, we're going to look at what happens next, because calm doesn't stay calm forever. The ice eventually melts. And when it does, that means that something important is happening in the work. So let's set the scene to start with. So those moments where the client who's been perfectly composed, they suddenly pause. So maybe their voice catches, or their eyes go a bit shiny, or maybe they say something like, "I don't usually get emotional." This is the moment that the ice starts to melt. Now, to be really clear here, this is not a problem. It's not a slip. What it actually is it's a sign of trust. It's a sign that the defensive wall is softening enough for something real to come through. So why do emotions start to unfreeze? What's happening here? Well, let's name what's going on psychodynamically. When clients stay frozen, it's usually a defense. So maybe some repression, intellectualizing, maybe some reaction formation, whatever flavor you spotted last week. Those defenses, they're not bad. They're protective. They're a way of saying, feeling this is just too much for me. But coaching, and I mean good coaching here, good quality coaching, creates enough safety, enough relational steadiness that those old protective layers, they don't need to work quite so hard. If you've ever heard me talk about coaching, or you've been on one of my training courses, you'll hear me say that the relationship is the key. If you don't have a good relationship when you're coaching, you can't do anything. So with this good relationship that you've built, it's created that feeling of safety so that these protective layers, they don't need to they don't need to pedal away faster, almost like a swan gliding over water, spinning its little feet. So when the ice melts, it means that the client feels safer, the connection is stronger, and there's enough containment for feeling to return. So what this is this is actual depth work working. Shows that you're doing a good job. I mean, there are a lot of coaches who panic when this happens and think, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong. Far from it. You're actually doing something very, very right. Now, we've got two paths that we can kind of take here. We can go down the path of movement or flooding. And, this is an important distinction. When feelings thaw, two things can happen. So first of all, we can have emotional movement. So what this is the client softens, they feel something, and they stay in contact with you. There's a sense of flow, of something maybe finally shifting. And these are the moments where coaching becomes really powerful. Or we've got emotional flooding. And this is where everything unfreezes at once. So the client becomes overwhelmed, disorganised, maybe a bit shaky. They might cry hard or apologise or start to disconnect from you. Now, this is not breakthrough. This is dysregulation. And our job is to pace the thaw, not throw them in at the deep end, not think, oh, goody, it's all, we're getting somewhere now. Let's kind of really go for it here. That is not what we're here to do. So what do coaches get wrong in this moment? We're going to talk about the classic coach mistakes in this moment. Please don't feel bad if you've done this. This isn't about being judgmental. We've all made these mistakes. It's about what we do with them afterwards, how we learn to move with them. So things that we can do that might seem helpful but aren't, maybe we over-validate the tears and we're thinking, oh, this is great, this is the real stuff. Actually, it's too much pressure for the client. Maybe we back away from the emotion because we get anxious or uncomfortable. It is so important that we show clients that we can sit with them in the distress. It's not going to break us, it's not going to harm us. We can provide that containment for them. The other thing that isn't helpful is rushing in with insight, because the feeling, particularly if there's a lot there, makes us want to fix something quickly. We want to rush in and we want to make everything better. The intention is good. You can see where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of wanting to help, but it doesn't. Or maybe we try and find meaning too fast, when actually what's needed is presence, not analysis or interpretation. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with interpretation, but as with a lot of things around coaching, a lot of with key concepts, it's all about timing. So a well-timed question, a well-timed interpretation can be brilliant, can really help the client move. But actually, if you go too fast, it's not helpful. And this is where many coaches unintentionally shut the thaw back down. So you kind of made progress and then boom, it's shut. The doors are shut again. So how do we work with the thaw safely? So the first thing that we do is we slow our pace to match theirs. Our nervous system is going to set the temperature. So it's really important that we are able to stay steady in these moments, because that keeps the thaw contained. We're not racing into that risk of flooding here. We stay close with curiosity, not why is this happening? Because actually we don't really need to know why, but more what's happening for you right now as this feeling shows up. We're not coming in with any judgment here. We're staying close and we're wanting to, work with the client and partner with them. What's going on for them in this moment? We're going to name the moment, not the meaning. So feels like something important's coming through here. And what this does is it signals, you're safe, I am here. I'm not running away from this. This is not too much for me. Now, another key thing to remember is don't make the feeling the point of the session. It is not about catharsis. It's about the connection that you feel. So, yes, the feeling that the client experiences is important, and it's an integral part of the session, but it's not the be-all and end-all of it. Because this, again, it can mean that the client feels overwhelmed and boom, they're back in, they shut down in a freeze again. Keep them oriented. So if they have a wobble, understandable, you're here with me. Take your time. What do you notice in your body right now? What's going on for you in this moment? And with this orientation, what we're doing is we're preventing the flooding. Follow the feeling, not the story. So once the emotion resurfaces, the story is often secondary. You are working with the affect, not the content. Now, this can be something that as coaches we really, really struggle with, because we're human beings and we're we are interested. We're interested in what goes on. Of course, we're going to, kind of want to follow the story. That's what a human being would want to do. That's not helpful. The story isn't there, to entertain us. We aren't there as coaches to be entertained. What we're there for is we are there to be with the client. We're there to work with, what's going on for them. What do they feel in this moment? How are their feelings impacting how they show up in their everyday lives? So it's absolutely key to remember that when the ice melts, we're witnessing a moment where the client's inner world becomes available. Again, they've shut themselves off. Now the ice is melting. We can do some more work with them. But remember, it's always, always at their speed. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. It is subtle, relational, and incredibly potent. So the real work is in helping the client stay in contact with themselves and with you as that feeling emerges. And that is where the change actually happens. So, as you can see, hopefully you've seen from today, this is a really important part of the work. I'm going to leave you with a question. Who comes to mind when you think about thawing? And what helped or hindered the emotional movement in that moment? Now, I love to give you a bit of a reflection question to think about there. So I hope you enjoyed our almost like psychodynamic micro moment that we've had together today. If you have enjoyed this, there are actually on my LinkedIn page, there are all kinds of lives that I've done so far. If you've missed those, I'm also pop these on YouTube as well if you want to catch up with them. If you're interested in psychodynamics, and quite frankly, who isn't, there is my weekly podcast, The Dynamics of Everyday Life, where you can catch up with what I'm thinking about psychodynamically each week. Also my course, Essential Psychodynamics for Coaches. We're starting again in January. We have some incredible coaches already signed up for this. I cannot wait to get going. Don't miss out. Come and join us. So drop me a DM, send me an email, and we can have a chat about that. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next week for more Beyond the Words, when we can really, keep having a look at where psychodynamics pops up in coaching, because I promise you it's there. Talk to you soon, everyone. Take care. Bye.